Welcome to Ever Living, a podcast about valuing life here on earth and for eternity. Every week on Ever Living, we create a space for sharing the stories and voices of those who work and pray to create a culture of life in New England and beyond. So, welcome to Ever Living, everybody. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Cindy.
How has your week been?
Great. It's been a bit warm. I don't know if you noticed.
Yes, very hot, 90 degrees here in New Hampshire. Well, what's who can withstand the surface of the sun? Maybe Superman?
I don't know. Maybe they even get recharged by the sun.
Well, that reminds me of our special guest today. Everybody, please welcome Jor-El Godsey, the president of Heartbeat International. Welcome, Jor-El.
Thanks, Cindy. Appreciate it very much. Good to be with you guys.
Thanks for being here today. Let's start with something fun. Can you explain the origin of your name?
Oh, absolutely. I get this question all the time. I think people are expecting, am I from some foreign, faraway country? And the answer is no. Is this my, grandma and grandpa's name shoved together? No, it actually comes, as you hinted, it comes from Krypton. Jor-El is Superman's father's name, and so it's been something I've carried since I was obviously very little. Didn't have anything to say about it at the time, but it was something my dad was really hyped about. So it's something I've been able to carry. Before cool and different names was really popular, I got to do this every single first day of school as I was growing up, to introduce a new name with a hyphen and a capital E and all that. So yeah, and in fact, we've carried that tradition along with my own kids. So I have my oldest, his middle name is Kal-El, which is Superman's name on Krypton. My daughter is Kara or Kara, which is Supergirl. And then my youngest, his name is Joel, but his middle name is Kent. So we've had a lot of fun with that.
Wow, so it's in the whole family.
That's right.
Well, as Superman, his job is to rescue people from danger. I think your mission is to rescue mothers and children from danger as well. Can you explain more about your role at Heartbeat International?
Yeah, I have the privilege of being the president here of what is the largest network of pregnancy help locations, service locations, both around the country and around the world. We're now in 102 countries with almost 4,000 locations. These are pregnancy centers, they're pregnancy medical clinics, they're maternity homes. They are also some nonprofit adoption agencies, and a handful of other efforts that are all designed to help women have alternatives to abortion, so that no one feels like that's the only path they can take, but that there are those who are ready to step into the gap and help them rescue their own baby. That's one of the values that we get to do. We get to work with leaders and volunteers and staff members who are doing this in many different capacities, different languages. We have our own direct services efforts here. We operate optionline.org, which is functioning 24/7, 365 to help people connect with life-affirming help. And then also a newer program for us is Abortion Pill Rescue Network, where we operate abortionpillreversal.com, and also have another team that answers those types of calls to help them connected with the potential to reverse chemical abortion that they no longer want.
Okay, wow. Let's take a look at those sites that you share. Let's start with optionline.org.
Yeah.
Let's pull it up.
So OptionLine was something. It was a dream that we had of being able to answer. In fact, if I go back to the founding of Heartbeat International, which was way back in the very early stages of abortion becoming an issue in our nation, it was before Roe, actually, in 1971. The founders of Heartbeat International talked about having what they called a Watts line. We would know it as an 800 number, and that vision became a reality in 2003 when we took our first call at Option Line. We had a group of folks that were based right here in Columbus, Ohio, that were all together. There would be a team operating around the clock together. As technology improved, we were able to begin to do that from a remote basis. As we needed to get Spanish speakers, you might be surprised to know that there are not a not a huge number of Spanish speakers here in Columbus, Ohio. So we had to stretch into places like Texas and California and all over to get Spanish speakers. And we're delighted that over the last several years, we've been able to provide 24/7 Spanish speaking help as well. So it's a labor of love. We have a great team that does this. They do it. It's a paid staff, so they're very accomplished, very professional in doing it, but they're ready to talk to anyone who's facing an unplanned pregnancy and connect them to the resource that's closest to them.
That's awesome, Jor-El. Can you talk about the way that we communicate in society has changed a lot. Back when I was younger, all we had were phone calls, right? We didn't have text messages and all that. How has Option Line evolved in order to accommodate like the younger generations?
Well, it's actually evolved quite a bit. We of course opened it and started it as a call center, meaning we were primarily taking phone calls. We also had email at the time. Of course, that was readily available to us, but we happened to be jumping in right as SMS or text became a big thing, and then soon chat was became an even bigger thing. And so the truth is now is like our chat, our text, and email represent a decent volume, but it's been very interesting. We've seen actually, you talk about the younger generation, we're seeing some signs at Option Line and even some research that is unrelated to Option Line about how when people are in crisis, they want to talk to someone. And so our calls have actually
Mm.
expanded, like we've gone up like 50% in the last 5 years. Phone calls, like actual literal answers phone calls. Now we can still do texts. We have a great team that does all that, email and chat, and mostly chat would be among those, but any way that we can connect with them, any way that we can help them find that help that's closest to them, we're excited to be able to do that.
Oh, cool. So can we go back to that website, Option Line, and take a
Yep.
look?
Yeah, the other thing about Option Line is that it has a locator. For those that are already like, for instance, like this is the one resource that I would encourage everybody to have walking around with them is optionline.org, because yes, we have a team that's able to answer those calls, able to answer those chats and texts and email, but there's also a locator where if you want to know like what life affirming resources are nearby, you simply enter the locator. You can enter a city, a zip code. You can enter some kind of details, and that will actually connect you. You can see who we have on our list. It's the very same list that our Option Line folks use when they're trying to connect to someone local. It'll bring up the closest 10, the 10 closest locations, no matter wherever you are, and then that gives you an opportunity to connect directly. Of course, during the day, that's probably the best opportunity to be able to connect. But then during the evening, that's when our team is likely going to be the one that they're going to talk to, or overnight and weekends. We're the ones that are going to be available 24/7 for those that are not. We can also schedule appointments in local and some local entities. About half of those that are on Option Line, we can actually schedule appointments right into their books. So we're trying to do everything we can to connect people with the help that they're looking for, that will affirm life, that will help them at no cost to them. It's a great opportunity for us to serve across the Northeast and around the country.
That's
Okay.
amazing. There's must be a lot of logistics that go into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's go to the
we
front
have a great
page.
team. Go ahead.
Oh, you said you have a great team?
Yeah, we have a great team. We have some folks that have been around for a long time, others that are brand new to us. They go through extensive training as they're learning to answer those calls. That we have a handful of nurses that are part of our call as well, so that sometimes there are some medical questions that they can answer, some medical education that they can offer, particularly for those that are facing some particularly challenging scenarios. We can step in with a nurse and provide some more information.
Okay, let's try this out. Let's choose a location. Can we put a zip code?
How about
Sure.
03054? That's Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Yeah,
03054. Okay.
there you go. You get
And
a
then,
map, and if you scroll below that, you'll see it. It'll kind of stack up as far as
oh
as
yeah.
far as who's closest to that zip code, as best as the software interprets where you're talking about. So you can see the list right there. You can connect with them directly, call them from there. You can see their hours and their services.
Oh, great.
Oh wow, you can
Request an
even request
appointment.
an appointment. That's amazing. It's great to see. Great to see everybody working together so much to
Yeah, in
help
fact,
the mothers.
every day at Option Line, we're making about 11 to 1200 connections every single day, which is
Wow.
a volume that most pregnancy centers will never see. It gives us it gives us a very effective way to connect people. We, of course, hope that the local pregnancy help organizations, that their marketing is going to draw them in. But if it doesn't, then this is like a net below that. That will help catch people who are looking for help, if they're able to catch us. And of course, we want to connect them with that warm, friendly voice and face that's right there in their own community. And we're going to do that with a warm, friendly voice as well. So it's a privilege to know this team does amazing stuff. We have one person who's on our team who's answered more than 250,000 calls in her time. We've had a
Wow.
Wow.
total number of we have about 5 million connects that we've made in the last since Option Line began, and we're just seeing that number grow every year.
Okay, so Option Line also has a phone number. I think we can see it in the corner if we go
Yeah.
back.
Well, we
Back. So 1-800-712-4357 looks like.
Yep. 1-800-712-HELP.
and we'll put that
The
we'll
way
put
we
that
like
in
to
the
say,
podcast notes so
yeah, the
so our
way we like
viewers
to
can
say
have
it
that.
is 7 days a week, 12 months of the year, we're available.
Also, now, Jor-El, you must have all sorts of amazing stories. Can you share one or two that really touched you?
Well, there are many, and of course, our work is layered. Certainly, with those that are calling Option Line, I have had the privilege. I have never answered a call at Option Line. We reserve that for those that are very especially trained. But I have had the chance to meet some people and talk to some folks that have been blessed by Option Line, to be able to make that connection to a local pregnancy center or maternity home, to be able to know those stories. I get to see it in their feedback. They come back and would say, "I am so grateful. They called in the middle of the night. They didn't know anywhere else to turn, and they were able to talk to someone who came equipped to share what we call the love approach, that to listen and learn, to open the options, to walk in, to really give them vision and values, and then to extend and empower." So I get to see those comments all the time. Now at our abortion pill reversal.com, we've been able to answer calls as well. Now some of those babies now some of them are young children. I've been able to actually meet with them directly. I had one in my office who was running around. We brought her in. She actually was
Wow.
right here in Ohio. She was running around at one point in a very pretty dress, and then the next moment, as you can imagine 2-year-olds will do, the dress was gone and she's running around in her diapers. Is like it's just one of those things that you can't help but smile at, just the excitement of life and what that means. We've had some amazing stories at Abortion Pill Reversal in particular, given how new it is for us. It's something that's really only come about in the last roughly 10 years or so. 15 years. We're seeing some very interesting stories. We had a scenario where it was actually a flight attendant called us, and she had just taken the first pill. And as you know, abortion pill is not one pill but two. And before she was taking that second pill, she had come to the realization, as so many do, that she didn't want to go through with this. And so she found us, connected with us. Now, our team, she said, I'm at work. I'm about to get on a plane and I'm going to fly across the country. I think actually she was flying from the West Coast. When she landed in Boston, as I understand the story, our team was ready for her, was able to connect her with a prescriber right there in that area to be able to get progesterone, which is what abortion pill reversal is. And they were able to start that path for her to help save her own baby after having taken that first pill of the chemical abortion regime. And so those are the kind of stories that we enjoy. I've also seen some very sad ones where in fact, I just learned this story just a couple weeks ago. Is a young woman was telling us after the fact that she had reached out to Abortion Pill Reversal a while ago, and she explained the story a little more to us now than what she was able to do then. But her boyfriend had actually slipped her the pill unaware. And she was
Oh,
now in the midst of an
wow.
abortion that she did not even ask for.
Oh,
She was forced into that without her knowledge. And as soon as she found out, she immediately sought some way to help. And no one would help her locally, but we were able to help her. Once she reached our network, we were able to help her, and she was calling in to report. And the excitement of her little 6-year-old baby that was now getting the first year of school is like, it was just it was a very sad story about how we came to meet her, but a tremendously powerful story of her commitment and will to overcome that, and connection with us, and how great it was that we were able to play a part in that, so that that little life could be rescued and she could enjoy the little son that she has right now.
Jor-El, I feel like in my work in pro-life here in New Hampshire, a lot of this is like kind of theoretical. We're trying to help mothers and children through various avenues. But when I hear stories like that, it's like sends chills down my spine, because it's like you actually met the 2-year-old who's alive, and she's walking around in your office,
That's right.
and this other mother and her 6-year-old. It's just so inspiring. I loved it. Like, we need to tell these stories more, I think.
Well, I think that most of us that are laboring in the pro-life world, I don't think we'll ever know this side of heaven the full impact of our work. But one day we will, and I think that the Lord will reveal to us all the lives that we had a hand in, whether in part or in whole. It doesn't matter. It's our part of it's just playing our part that God has called us to. So I very much appreciate folks like you, Jason and Cindy, that you're able to really advance the cause in places that I don't want to go. I'm so grateful that you're there, battling with the legislatures, and getting on that education environment. Those are critical things. Our part in the pregnancy help world is that we make sure that we are a practical resource, which is going to work in an abortion state, or is going to work in a life state, because frankly, they're both necessary right now. There is no state where abortions are not happening, and that's why we continually need to raise up opportunities for her to have alternatives to abortion.
Yeah, it's becoming really important because um, uh, not just going to an abortion center to do the abortion, but doing like with pills at home. And so having this website and this, can we go back to the phone number for abortionpillreversal.com? So it's
Yeah.
877-558-0333. So
Yep.
calling that to get help in keep letting the baby survive. And
Well, and that's what's interesting is we know that there's a lot of pressure for people who are facing challenging circumstances. Of course, the one that where she was slipped the pill unaware is terrible, but there are others that are facing very practical challenges with finances, with even housing, with a variety of scenarios where, if they're not directly being coerced by someone else, they certainly are feeling the pressure, like they don't have anywhere else to turn. And that's exactly what pregnancy help centers are there for. That they're exactly there to help them overcome that and overcome those obstacles, help guide them to places where they can either get resources right there, like an ultrasound to understand better, or good classes, or even connecting them to financial resources that we know are available on hand. But the Abortion Pill Rescue Network is really there for those that have made that decision, and for whatever reason they couldn't find that path, took that pill, and then changed their mind immediately after. We have up to 72 hours, the research shows us, to intervene, and that's our option. But most of our folks, I think it's about 75% still, that call us within the first 24 hours after taking that pill. And it's something that is necessary. We know as abortion numbers are growing again, what are we back up over 1 million for our entire country, that there are more and more people who are taking that pill and immediately regretting it. They need help, and so we're grateful for the opportunity to be there. We wish more people knew about that. We have some battles, some folks that don't want people to know about abortion pill reversal, and that's been our adventure of late.
you know it, I guess that last thing you mentioned, there's some people that don't want it. I mean, I think there's states like New Jersey and Massachusetts who have been working against it. which is interesting because, you know, the thing when I hear in the legislature, the other side saying is that we can never get between a pregnant woman and her doctor. And abortion pill reversal is something a doctor or a medical prescriber prescribes
Exactly.
to a mother who's choosing life, and there are efforts to get in between them. So I think it's an interesting um, kind of contradiction in their argument.
Very much. Colorado made a move in early 2024 to actually create legislative ban on promoting and providing abortion pill reversal, which is just progesterone, by the way. It's just a high dose of progesterone, something the woman already produces in her body for her pregnancy. And they banned it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like you said, like, aren't they? You know, I thought the argument was about choice. Well, shouldn't you allow the woman the choice to continue her pregnancy? Like, that seems to make sense. And I don't understand why they would get in the way of that, except it gets in the way of an ideology and kind of some dynamics that are to me are underlying all of this subject.
Well, I'm so glad that there are organizations like Heartbeat that exist in order to help a woman who chooses life, and you guys get behind her and support her. So in terms of Heartbeat International, how is this year going, and what are some of your challenges and successes?
Well, some of our successes are we are able to we have reached a record high. I mentioned earlier we have now nearly 4,000. It's actually 3,900 and a handful locations. Like, that's a high water mark for us forever. We've actually grown our affiliate locations around the globe. It's actually like tripled since I began with Heartbeat a number of years ago, and so we're very excited for that. We saw something happen that we really love and appreciate. There was a network that we've been supporting for many, many years that formalized recently in the Balkans, of all places. These are places not like the U.S., which has many pregnancy centers. These are countries in Eastern Europe, particularly former Yugoslavian countries, that only have one or two pregnancy help locations in their entire country. So when they come together in a kind of an official way and support one another, we are very excited for that. We've been supporting them, working with them, traveling to be with them, bringing them to our conferences for many years now, and excited for that. We're going to see an Asian Pregnancy Help Leaders Summit that we're hosting later this year. We're excited for that. But the one big announcement, and I kind of already alluded to it already, is that we've seen now we calculate through the Abortion Pill Rescue Network, we now calculate 7,000 lives saved from the work of Abortion Pill Rescue Network. And that is an amazing thing that we're very excited to get there. We're actually got to it faster than last year. And we think it's growing even faster now.
Wow. Oh, so does as a pregnancy center, do they reach out to you to be part of Heartbeat International, or does Heartbeat International go and start a pregnancy center? I'm curious, how does that work?
Well, normally we're able to kind of come alongside those who are feeling the call, who are kind of sense the need in their communities, and we try to step in and help them in that stage. Of course, we welcome those that have already started and begun, so we can do either. We can help them as they're in that founding environment, in those early stages, or we welcome them to join wherever they are. Sometimes we have to discover them. You know, they've started, they didn't know we were out there. They weren't able to find us otherwise. So however we can, our goal is to advance and unify the pregnancy help worldwide.
Cool. And then do they choose a name for the pregnancy center, or are there pregnancy centers called Heartbeat International Center?
Well, that's a good question. There are actually pregnancy centers called Heartbeat. There's a handful of them. Some of them actually were around when Heartbeat International was founded. But we weren't founded as Heartbeat. We were founded as Alternatives to Abortion International. And yet there's a Heartbeat of Lima here in Ohio. There's a Heartbeats of Licking County right nearby. There's a Heartbeat of Miami. We had a hand in that one, and that seemed like a good name. It's not a name that we require or even encourage. But we're of course excited when they choose something that's familiar to us. We think it's a great, something very critical for us to convey is the importance of a heartbeat.
So Joel, when you say heartbeat of Miami, I'm assuming you're talking about the Miami, Ohio, not the Miami, Florida.
No, actually, no, I'm talking about Florida. Yeah, thanks for
Oh
the
wow, okay.
clarification, Jason. Yeah, no, no, that was one that we did have a hand in because there was an understanding there was very little pregnancy help happening in South Florida. I happen to come from South Florida originally, and I was at Heartbeat when this was as this was happening. There was a calculation. I think there were 27 abortion clinics in the Miami area, and
Ooh,
no pregnancy center with medical services. And so that became a
wow.
call, and that became something that Heartbeat International invested in. Others joined in that process, and we were able to see a great team that was formed, that was kind of synthesized and catalyzed by the work of Heartbeat International. And now it's one of the busiest groups. They have five or six different locations across the Miami-Dade area. Great growing concern, great leadership there. So that's just an example. Like there are many pregnancy centers that have seen that kind of growth. They become more effective over the years. They've been able to grow in areas, and certainly in a metropolitan area like Miami is, and the need there. Those things are critical to see happen.
Well, it's so wonderful that uh, just going back to your comment on, I think you said was it 7,000
7,000.
babies have been
Yep.
saved? That's I mean,
Yeah.
that's hard to argue with. That's 7,000 people who are here, who are walking around and going and starting school maybe, and that would not be here if it weren't for abortion pill reversal. I'm just so blown away by that.
And those are the ones that we calculate. I mean, that there are those that we're unaware of that could be, because again, abortion pill reversal is not an exotic treatment. It's just a high dosage of what a woman already makes in her body. And so that to me is something that ought to be happening more, because I think that there are more and more women who are regretting that and taking that chemical abortion, and would if they knew that we existed, would be inclined to call us and reverse that decision,
Oh,
or at
especially
least attempt to.
as the I think the percentage is now something like 60-70% of abortions, I believe, are now the pill abortion pills.
Yeah, that's actually as of 2023. It was 64%. We've seen information, and we think that the numbers are actually closer to 80% right now.
Oh wow.
And that that doesn't fully that's not fully accounted for by the illegal sources that really can't be tracked anywhere. But the abortion industry is itself is reporting even a steeper the use of chemical abortion. And this is not surprising, because chemical abortion became a big thing in Europe, and it's used broadly and widely there. That's where it was invented, and this is, of course, we're seeing it now grow. And the abortion industry is taking advantage of that. You see them closing locations and whatnot, and they kind of talk about it in terms of some angst. But I think that they're quite comfortable with closing physical locations, because getting abortion pills over the internet is far more lucrative for an industry that is profiting off of women in that way. And unfortunately, it also produces, well, as you saw the report despite what the FDA says, that only 0.05% of, or 0.5% of the women experience some kind of adverse effects. The real life analysis shows that it's more like closer to 11% of women. I mean, imagine that, like 1 out of 10, more than 1 out of 10 women are going to suffer physical effects from that. And that doesn't even take into account the psychologies that we know exist, but that others are not ready to admit.
Yeah, and then taking these pills maybe by themselves, and then um, needing, emergency help at the hospital to recover from the injuries from the abortion pill, I think.
Yeah, and that what's really sad is that we hear more and more stories about the abortion industry telling the women that should they have to go to the emergency room, to lie and don't admit to the fact that they've taken the abortion pill. Now, look, in my history, I've learned that you can lie to your lawyers, but you should never lie to your doctors, right? The doctor needs to know everything so that they can provide the very best care. And it seems to me just unconscionable that you would instruct a woman to lie to a healthcare professional for what? In order to protect the abortion industry and the provider of the chemical abortion, not the care of that woman. This is simply it's out of whack, and it's something that should not be allowed and not be allowed to continue.
Yeah, and I think my understanding is that every single state in the country does not criminalize a woman for abortion. So they may. I wonder if they're under the idea that, oh, I could get prosecuted, but that's not the case. I think in every state.
It's not the case, no. And again, that just exposes the motivation of those that would instruct people to do that. That they really are about covering their own actions and not so much the health of that woman.
Yeah.
Well, Jor-El, how can our listeners learn more about Heartbeat International and support the work that you do? What can our listeners do to help?
Thanks, Zinni. I appreciate that. One thing, of course, you can go to our website, heartbeatinternational.org, but I really would want you to walk around with the knowledge of optionline.org so that you can find whoever's closest to you. And, one of the things I always like to encourage is if you find that local pregnancy help organization, I invite you to do three things. You can pick one or all three, affirm them. Well, first, make yourself aware. Where are they? Where can I direct people to go in case they need help? Because usually one of the best ways that people learn about pregnancy help locations is through word of mouth. So if you're walking around to where you run into someone that you suddenly realize, like, boy, they really need a pregnancy help center, or they could use a maternity home, or whatever need they present, those are the folks. So just be aware. Just be aware to find them, and optionline.org can help with that. The second thing I would encourage you would to be affirm them. Maybe stop and visit, say hello, learn more about their programs, what they have available right there in the community, so that you can be walking around with that information. And then the third of those is to advocate for them. And that might include volunteering or supporting or donating, or just making sure that you're becoming a voice for them as they want to make sure that others know about the sources that are happening. So whether that's locally in your own area, or Optionline, or abortionpillreversal.com, any of those, just be aware, and affirming, and then advocate.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you,
Well,
guys.
yeah, and we like to close our episodes with sharing life-affirming Bible verses. Do you have one that you'd like to share, Jor-El, or
Yeah,
Jason?
I so appreciate. I mean, I know Psalm 139 speaks to this, but Jeremiah 1 really talks about the call of Jeremiah happening in the womb, like God's intent of really showing Himself powerful even before we have taken our first breath is in and of itself amazing. That's exactly, we really are a thought in God's mind before we ever exist, and we need to love and respect life just in that way, our own and others.
That's a good one. Just want to look it up if I can. The Bible here.
Never leave home without one.
Jeremiah
Or
chapter 1.
I think it's verse 5.
Yep, verse 5. Okay. Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. So, yeah. Before Jeremiah was born, God consecrated him.
Kind of reminds me of John the Baptist when he was in Jesus was in Mary's womb, and John the Baptist was in his mother's womb, and like she was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied, and it's just amazing how even before birth he was filled with the Holy Spirit. Just like it sounds like Jeremiah was called as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Well, should I share one too? Okay. I chose this week from Colossians chapter 1, verses 13 to 17. The the Father, he has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son,
Mhm.
in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. So
Nice.
we know that in Christ, in Christ all things hold together. So
Reminds me of the song, right? He's got the whole world in his hands. Yeah.
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 So, well, I guess that's concludes our episode today. And so thank you so much, Jor-El, for sharing about Heartbeat International, optionline.org, and abortionpillreversal.com. Great resources that we hope get spread widely.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for the
continue.
opportunity. Really enjoyed being with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jor-El. We really appreciate having you on. Stay in touch.
God bless you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Ever Living podcast. If you have scripture, questions, or things you'd like to share, please feel free to email us at everlivingpod@gmail.com. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at ever.livingpodcast. And if you like this podcast, please make sure to subscribe and share with a friend, and give us a 5-star review. See you next week. May God bless you and be very near to you, and may you be ever living.